Hi, I'm Daniel Shanahan from New Leaf Data. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take the Bill of Materials tree basic and implement that into FileMaker's inventory starter solution. The BOM tree file is a way to look at your data, your Bill of Materials data in a hierarchical tree. I have two versions of this. There's a basic and a pro. The basic is free and the pro is a paid file. I did another video on this file and comparing the two. So if you haven't seen that video, first take a look at that and then come back here and I'll show you how to implement the basic into a file. For this example, we're going to use FileMaker's inventory sample, which I can get here. Before I can start, I need to do a number of setup items. The presumption is you already have an inventory management system. If you don't have an inventory management system, don't build it off of this file. This file is just a demo file. I believe FileMaker uses this to show some different techniques that can be used, but it's not very robust. If you're looking for a more robust system, I suggest going to FM Inventory Starter, and here is a free starter solution for the do-it-yourselfer. Has very little script, so you'll have to build that out. Or if you're looking for a system that's from end to end, from purchasing to selling, and then the warehouse piece, you can go to FM Inventory App. Those are much more robust systems, and those are my systems, so I'm biased on that, but those are much more robust than FileMaker's inventory sample. But the sample gives us a pretty good place to see what steps need to be taken to implement the bill of materials, either the basic or the pro, into an existing inventory file. So again, the presumption is you already have an inventory file and you will have all of these things, but they're not in this file yet, so I need to do those. And I'm going to do this setup here on this list. A couple of notes here. When I create this bill of material table, the BOM Tree Pro and Basic require that there are no spaces in the name. So in these other table names, there are spaces. I really would like to have consistency in table names, and so that's not going to happen in this example. But the only tables that I need are the inventory and the bill of materials. So these other ones won't affect us. So I'm not going to change those. When we get into the inventory, let's see. The inventory table was here already, and I could see that the naming convention is uppercase and a space, and so I kept that when I entered the quantity available and the unit measure. I also kept that naming convention when I put in quantity and unit of measure here. Well, unit of measure, yeah, so the naming convention is the same for both of those. We have a little bit of a discrepancy with our primary key here. It's automated. I'm in FileMaker 18 and creating a new table automates that field, those 5 fields for us. So this is the primary key. And in the inventory, it's item ID match field. I'm going to keep that. Hopefully in your system it doesn't exist like that. When I build something, my IDs are, or my primary keys are ID, very easy. And that's how they are in the BOM trees. But you might not have that. So I think having these two different names and having an inconsistency will help see that that's not an obstacle. Again, we can have spaces in between here on the field level, but not on the table level. Okay, so that's all set for our tables. Now I need to import the data. Okay, that looks good for my setup. Again, if you have an inventory system, this should all be done. You should already have a bill of materials table. You should already have data. But I didn't have this for the demo file, so I want to do that. So I can close that out. I don't need that. I have this process broken up into 10 steps. Most of the steps are pretty easy. There are some changes that you'll need to make to scripting, to the script, and in the script you'll need to make changes to the SQL statement. So you need to have you need to be comfortable with getting into FileMaker's scripting. It's hard to say if you need to be an intermediate developer or an advanced developer. It's hard. Certification certainly is one marker for that, but it's really hard to clarify what an intermediate or advanced is. The hardest thing in this process is updating those SQL statements, and but we'll get to that. We'll get to that shortly. About step 8. The other thing I want to say before we begin is I'm not going to work on these files. So I just created this inventory file. When you do this, my recommendation is that you make a copy or backup of your files and do it on those. Don't do it in production. If you have a production inventory system, don't do this in your production system. Do it in a backup, test it, make sure it works, and then move it into production. We're going to do that now. Now I have a copy of each file, and if something goes wrong, I can always revert to the original file. So I'm good to go there. Here are the first 7 steps. So let's go through those. In step 5, I need to add this field to a global field. I have a global table in the BOM Tree Basic, but there's no global table here and I'm not going to create one because I want to show you how you can adapt this to something that might be in your situation. If you have a global field, by all means use it. But what I'm going to do is first I'm going to take that field and let's copy it and move it over to the item table. And now I'm going to reference it here at the item table. Here it is. There's also a filter here, so I need to change that filter. Okay, so now that works. So now I can come over here to, it should still be in my clipboard. I believe it's still in my clipboard. I paste that. There it is. Good. Okay, done. In this next step, number 6, what I want to do is I want to take the naming convention that's in my inventory file, and I want to change the names in the BOM Tree Basic. That's going to update the scripts, so then when I move the scripts over, it will I won't get any errors in that regard. Timeout. I made a mistake. What I meant to say and do is take the table names and the field names from the inventory file and copy those to the BOM Tree Basic. I only did the field names. I did not do the table names. So then when I did the import, I did have problems. So as we move through the video, it's going to come back to haunt me, and you'll see. But I wanted to give you a heads up before it happened. It will, I won't get any errors in that regard. I'm still going to get some errors. That's a sign of things to come, but we'll address that in step 8. Okay, so let's see. I want to start with the inventory table. Now it's going to be a lot for me to remember what my naming convention is. So what I'm going to do is take a screenshot of this. I don't need all of these. I'll just take a screenshot of that. Now I can have that open while I look at this. I don't need that open. Okay, so now I'm in the item table, and the description, this is what I did not do. I didn't alphabetize it. Okay, but I have, and then the display level, I'll keep that there as that. Item name is simply item. It's capitalized. Item number over here is part number with a space. Procurement type we don't have in this table, so I'm not going to worry about it. So I really only needed a couple of those fields. I'll click OK there, and I will do the same thing for the bill of materials. I think those are my fields right there. Is that right? Those are the fields. Yeah, the other ones are not. But I might need that primary key. Okay, here I am in the BOM Tree Basic in the bill of material table. Yes, and that's what I want to look at. And oh, I forgot to do that too. Okay, here it's called, the ID is called primary key. with no space. And it looks like they have it as a text. I'll leave it as a number. Yeah, I'll leave it as a number and change that. BOM level. Okay, that takes care of everything. You may have noticed that the bill of materials primary key in the item is a number, and here it's a text. So I'm going to change that to a number. And then we're done. Now I need to create a bill of materials. This is optional, but in my inventory copy, oops, I don't want that. My inventory copy, I want to create a bill of materials folder here. I'm sorry, a bill of materials tree folder. So my scripts will go in there. Easier to find. Okay, the first 7 items are completed. Now we move on to 8, 9, and 10, and 8 requires some explanation. Step number 8 is to import the scripts from BOM Tree into your inventory file. And when that happens, some things are going to break. And the reason that they're going to break is because we're storing the quantities in the inventory table. For our demo, we have the quantities in this table, and we only have one warehouse. BOM Tree is set up in a different way. There's really a lot of different ways that you can store your item quantities. First of all, there's a lot of item quantities. We're not even capturing all the item quantities, but you really could have anything from on hand, allocated, available, on order, on back order, in transit, in repair, on loan, or any other number that has a significant meaning for your company. So the first thing is figure out what item quantity fields you need. Then the next thing is, where do you put them? Do you put them in the item table or the inventory table? Do you put them on the warehouse table? Do you have multiple warehouses? Do you have multiple locations within that warehouse? Do you put them in the location table? Do you have, what I do in many instances is I have a separate table called a quantity table. And you can put them there. There are a lot of options. And so when you do this, it's all going to depend on where you keep your quantity tables. So things are going to break. That's okay. I'm going to show you what to do when things break here. And we're going to keep it simple in the sense that the quantities are just in the inventory table. They're stored in the inventory table, and we're working with one warehouse. Now, this whole topic of quantities is beyond the scope of this video, but I've written a fair amount on this, and you can find this at FM Inventory Resources. I have an article here, 5 Common Quantity Fields, so you can read about that here. That article is open to the public. Again, at FM Inventory Resources, I have a demo file for updating quantities. This touches on that topic as well. That's a free demo. If you want to go into a deeper dive, there's a paid course for storing quantity values where I go through the different scenarios, and you could see different ways to storing your quantity. So I think that's a very helpful resource too. It is a paid resource. Okay, once that happens, we know we're going to have some breakage on these lines. So let's get to that. Okay, you can open up the log file. I opened mine and I put it off screen, but you can open up the log file, and that will also tell you where the errors are. So I am almost 100% certain I've captured all the errors. So let's go through those. This is by far the hardest one, this BOM tree. Remember, when we go through these errors, before I get to it, because it gets into the weeds, so you have to be prepared to get into the weeds. This is the hardest part of implementing this. Once we're done with this, we're almost home. Remember, the reason we have these errors is because the quantity and the location is different in the BOM tree as it is in the inventory file. And that's probably going to be the case for you unless you're using the free app that I made, the FM Inventory Starter, or if you have purchased FM Inventory app, then those things will be aligned. But if they haven't, then this is going to break. So this will be helpful. Let's go to this first one. The nice thing that FileMaker does is it highlights us and tells us where the errors are, and they're all SQL statements. So let's go through. First of all, we can see that there's a conditional here, and it wants to know if it's warehouse specific. Again, we only have one warehouse, and so we can make a change to one and we can comment out the other because we know we don't have a warehouse. I would discourage changing the scripts too much. If you change them, just make a copy of the file so you have some original version of the script, which you should have here at the BOM Tree Pro, now that I think about it. Okay, let's get into the weeds here. You'll notice on the BOM Tree Basic and the BOM Tree Pro, the SQL statements are written such that they're trying to prevent breakage. So you can change a field name, and you can change a table name, and it won't break. The one exception to that is if your table name, if you introduce spaces into your table name, then it will break. So with those caveats in mind, that's how this is written. Because of that, there's a layer of abstraction, and because of that layer of abstraction, it does make it hard. In my opinion, it makes it harder to read. So let's just go through and see what we need. Let's see, we don't need anything that says quantity on it. The available is going to be kept in our inventory table. This did not change when we changed the field names, and so we're just going to keep this here. This is just a placeholder, and it's going to show up here. We're not going to change all of those. We don't need to change all of those. What we're concerned about and what worked for us is that all of these things did change, and that's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so let's go through this one. This is a select from with a couple of joins, and let's make changes here. So we don't need quantity. That's going to be, our quantity is going to be on the item table. Our unit of measure is also on our item table. We're pulling this query from the BOM table. That's correct. We're going to join the BOM table to the item table. That's correct. Then there's an additional join that joins the item table to the quantity table. We don't have a quantity table, so we can safely remove that. Here's the condition where the BOM ID equals a question mark, and that's down here, the parent ID. That's correct. And then the quantity location is null. We don't have a quantity location, so we can safely get rid of that. Since we got rid of that, there's no need for the and. And coming down here, let's just do a scan. Here we have the quantity item ID. Let's see, quantity available. That needs to match this field up here, so that's item available. And that needs to be quantity available here. And quantity unit of measure, this needs to match this item unit of measure. And again, we're keeping that in the inventory table. Okay, oops, I didn't do that. What's going on here? There we are. Okay, now a quantity ID and a location ID. We got rid of those. We don't have those up at the top, and so we can safely get rid of these. These are all of our field references up top. Then with a space, we have our table references. We have a table reference for the BOM. That's right. For the item, that's right. The BOM is the primary key. That's right. The item is the item ID match field. Again, not keeping with the same naming convention, so that's, but I want to show you how that doesn't matter in the implementation. And then the quantity table. Again, we don't have a quantity table, so I can get rid of that, and then I don't need this semicolon. Okay, so that looks good. That should be good. Make sure, this is in some versions I've done beforehand. Make sure to delete these. If you don't delete these, then it reformats it and it doesn't look pretty. Okay, so something can't be found. I missed something. Oh, the BOM. Oh, I did not change the bill of material. I did not change the table name for the bill of materials. Shucks. So that's going to be a problem. It's not really a problem, but I have to pay. It's one more thing I have to do. But I'll just move on with it. And really I can do that pretty quickly here. Let's see, item, this one didn't change either. Item, I wonder why that didn't change. So that should be inventory. And this should be inventory. Sometimes things don't go perfectly, and you just have to adapt. Okay, that looks good now. Okay, I got another message. Oh, I missed these items. I didn't do the tables at all, looks like. Item, item, item. Okay, now we're good. Okay, now I have that, and I'll save that. Now that says if the warehouse is empty, which should always be true in our situation. If the warehouse is not empty, it wants to know a warehouse ID. We don't have a warehouse ID. So I'm simply going to comment that out, and I'm going to duplicate this BOM list and just have it as empty. Yeah, that should be okay. Okay, so that takes care of one. We have 6 of these in here. And let's go through this one. This one looks a lot cleaner, obviously a lot smaller. And so we're looking to, let's see. Oh, the only reason this didn't go, it's too bad. It's because I forgot to change those names. I forgot to change the table names in the BOM Tree Basic. So that's my mistake. And yep, let's just keep moving on with that. If you remember to change those table names as well as the field names, then you will be fine. And here's our table name. Our convention is to have a little space, have a space. Okay, that looks good. No condition there. Let's go to the next one. And let's look at this one. Good. This says this this is telling us if the unit of measure is different. In the BOM Tree Basic, really in a robust inventory management system, you should have a unit of measure table and a unit of measure conversion table, because you may purchase in one unit but sell in another unit. And so if you're so you need to do some conversions on that. That's set up in the BOM Tree Pro, BOM Tree Basic, and Pro, and it is not set up in the inventory, the FileMaker's sample inventory. It is set up in FM Inventory Starter and FM Inventory App. In this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this available U of M, and I'm just going to put it here. Now we have some value in here. I'll leave this commented out, and I'll keep it there. And now it simply says if the unit of measures don't match, then just take this available unit of measure. Okay, let's keep going. Now down here. And now we want to say, okay, now we want to grab the quantity available from the quantity table. Again, we're not keeping a quantity table, so this is in the inventory table, which we are calling item. And we'll change this to item, and location, we're not keeping a location. That means this and doesn't matter. And now we have the available. The available is going to come from the inventory table at our quantity available. And the item ID is our match field. And the location ID is not relevant, so we don't need that. But we do need a table name, and the table name, now this needs to match this. We change this from quantity to item, so we have to change this from quantity to item, and we'll put the match field in here too. It doesn't really matter what field, we're really grabbing this value. And let's lift this, and that should be good. So this is another instance where it says for all quantities, but if it's warehouse specific, we only have one warehouse, and so what I'm going to do is I don't think I need to put anything in there, so I'll just keep that there. Okay. Good. Okay, so that's our BOM tree. That's the biggest one with those lines there. Now check quantity. That one looks, that's fine. Check quantity, we should have 2 at 17 and 21. Again, it's trying to pull from a quantity table, and we don't have a quantity table. So we'll change this to the item, and we'll get same thing we just did. So we can get rid of this location. We only have one criteria, so we don't need the and. We don't have a quantity table, so we're pulling from the inventory table. I keep this as item because it's just a placeholder, and there's no reason to change it. So that's if I changed it up there, I need to change it down here. Item, and I could grab that table here. Now on the available is the available field here. The item ID, that's our primary key. Location ID is not relevant. Lift that up and move that. Let me so I want to select the available from the item table where the item ID equals this item ID, and that should be good. From a particular warehouse, we don't have a particular warehouse, so I'll just do that, and that should be good. Okay, so we have this one done, we have this one done. Okay, refresh BOM tree. Can cell quantity. And we have 3 here, 8, 9, and 21. That's right. And this is all the same. So available from item, and I want the item table here, and the item table should be that. And join the location, quantity, location. I don't need that join phrase. And don't have a warehouse ID. Okay, so I want quantity location. I don't need that. Oh, this is all warehouse. You know what? Where the warehouse ID is this? I don't need this one at all. Let me just back up out of that. Tree is warehouse specific. Sorry. I should have seen that. We don't need that at all. Let's just skip that one. All quantities in all warehouses. Okay. This one is much easier, so the can make is going to be where my quantity is in the inventory table. And same thing here. Okay, that looks good. That's refresh BOM can cell quantity. Tree duplicates. Warehouse specific, we know we're not going to need. And we've seen this before. It is tricky. These are in quotes, so if you mistype, it will accept that and it'll be wrong. So you do have to make sure you type it correctly. Not sure why it's not. There we go. Sometimes it's not taking. The item ID is there, and here. Okay, item. Give me everything that's available where this ID. That looks good, but get rid of those. So no warehouse specific doesn't matter, and that one's good. Item correct. Let's see. Oh, this is because I didn't do the. Yeah, this is I didn't do the names right. Didn't do the field. It didn't do the table names. So item info ID. Bill of materials. Item info ID. Easy enough. Could have been avoided, but it's easy enough. And this one I just remember because I did something similar when I was doing a test run. This one's going to be wrong because I've not put in in the relationship graph. I did not put in table occurrences for the where used. It's easy to do. You could do it on your own time. Put it in. It's built into the BOM Tree Pro. It's very easy to see what's in there and to replicate that in your relationship graph. So this just means that when we navigate down the tree, we don't have a way of navigating back up. So put that in if you want to navigate back up. And let's see, that's going to be it. Okay. That's the hardest part of this whole process is step 8. We already did step 9. I should have put it up on there, but and it's not even 4 scripts anymore. The scripts above. So step 9 is now done. Our last step is to grab the portal, and the portal has a name, and so we want to keep that name that's used in the script. So we'll copy that portal and we'll bring it over to our space here. What I want to do is I want to put the bill of materials on the top, and I'll put the bill of material tree, the BOM tree, on the bottom. It's not big enough, so I'm going to make some space for that. Okay, here's This would have worked beautifully if I had only remembered to change the table name, which you probably will remember. And let's see, you won't have to do this, but you want to check it just in case. And let's put some names up here. Okay, there it is. And oh, we don't have this. We do have it set to our levels. I don't have it. I don't have it assigned to the right field. Again, this is due to my because I forgot to change those names. Okay, so let's click the button and see if we can build our tree. Button is clicked and no tree appears. So the next step is, so we missed something. Let's find out, see if we can find out what it is. Run it through the debugger. And I'm looking for something in particular. Here's our problem, is in that the first script we worked on, the BOM tree. And as I step through, oops, let me bring it back here. I step through, and for all quantities, this should go right in there, which it does. And now I want to build a BOM list. And so when I do that, nothing comes up over here. So I should have a variable for BOM list. Nothing comes up. So since it's empty, it's going to just exit right out of the script. So let's find out why it's empty. And to do that, let's see, I'm going to take a look at this. And copy it, come over here. Okay, so something's wrong in here. Parent items, driving off the parent item ID. Do I have a parent item ID? I don't have a parent item ID. So it could be that the SQL statement is correct, but it doesn't have a parent item ID. Level, I don't have a level, I don't have a parent item ID. Something's wrong there. Where does the parent item ID come from? It comes from when I click the button. Ah, I wonder. Okay. Here it is, see that? Ah, that's our problem. Because I forgot to to change the table names. I have it in my notes. Change the table names and the field names. And it just didn't work. I better check these buttons too. That looks okay. You can't see that. There we go. That looks okay. And the clear doesn't have any parameters, so that should be okay. Okay. Let's see if we can build our... There it is. There's our tree. Let me get rid of this. So here's our tree. If I go down to one level, then it should mirror what we have in the bill of materials table. And then I could expand it out to 2 levels, 3 levels, that sort of thing. And if I navigate, let's go to the brake rotor plate, which should be a raw material and doesn't have anything up here, although this hide doesn't work. So we don't want to build something here, so I bet I did the same thing. I have a hide on here and on here, and here it is. Same thing. It's all the same. One problem, one mistake that I did, one oversight. I forgot to change the table names in the BOM Tree Basic, and that's where, so all of this stuff comes back to that. Oh, I have to change that now. Primary key, let's take that to bill of materials, primary key, and we have a hide on this, same thing. Where am I? Oops, that's not it. Bill of materials, primary key. And there it is. And now those should be hidden because we're on a root level, raw material. This is not, so it takes some time to get this into your system, and there's the scripting part. It takes some skill in the scripting area. So hopefully you're all set with that, and you have somebody that you can use. If you need help, then contact me and I can do it, and I can do it at a very affordable rate. So that's how you get the Bill of Material Basic and the Bill of Material Pro into your inventory system. And I'll leave a bunch of links below.